I think one of the most important things for anyone to recognise in their life in terms of aspiring to achieve your dreams, goals and ambitions is realising that there's probably a whole lot of beliefs that you have about yourself that aren't really serving you now. And the most important thing to recognise, the difference between a belief and a fact, is a belief you can change and a fact you cannot. You see, when people hold a belief long enough, they start to say in their own mind's eye that it's a fact. And when you say it's a fact, you immediately make a decision that it cannot be changed. When we recognise it's a belief that's ultimately been formed over a period of time through various experiences, we can actually change that. And the way to change that, just follow me here, is ultimately by stepping outside of our comfort zone. The only way in which we can create new beliefs is through creating new references. References are things that support a belief to be true. And the only way to get those references is to face some fear. Because it's through that fear that we face when stepping outside our comfort zone that we're going to continue to grow and achieve the goals, dreams and ambitions that we want. So just come back over here again. So I like to use the example of a table and legs. If the table is the belief, the legs are the references that support that belief to be true. Stories that I like to use to give people a really good understanding of how beliefs are formed through the references in our life is with regards to public speaking. So that's a belief that I have about myself, that I'm a confident public speaker. And that has been created over many, many years through a series of references that have supported that belief to be true. Now there's two kinds of references that we have. The first kind of reference, let me just have a look here, is what we call a conscious reference. These are the references that anyone can recall when they reflect back through their memory. The second kind of references are the references that are actually stored in our subconscious mind. These are harder to identify. These are kind of deep down in our subconscious. We don't always remember them. So let's just talk about a conscious reference for a few moments. My first conscious reference, in terms of the first leg that I can consciously remember that supported this belief to be true, was when I was in year 2. Really simple. A teacher was reading a story about cheetahs in Africa. And she was saying when a cheetah would kill its prey, it would drag it up a tree and it would leave it there in the cool of night. And then it would come back later and it would feed. Now she said that the cheetah over the last 50 years has stopped doing this. And she asked the class, why is that? Everyone was quiet. Then all of a sudden I shot up my hand and I said, Miss, is it because the hunters will see that dead animal in the tree and then they'll wait for the cheetah to come back and then kill it? She said, yes, that's correct. And the entire class was like, yeah, Brett, yeah, that is amazing. I walked up to the front of the room and she gave me a gold star. So here's the point of that story. As a 7-year-old, I wasn't aware of it, but ultimately what I did was I put up my hand, I took a risk with a question. I didn't necessarily know if the answer was right, and I got validated, not only from the teacher, but from the class as well. That when I take a risk, it's rewarded. So there's two lessons to that. One, there are many references in our life that come together to create our beliefs. And if they can be created that way, we can also change them by creating new and empowering references that support new beliefs. And like I mentioned earlier, the only way to do that is to step outside your comfort zone. The second thing to remember is your environment is key. Your environment can impact and influence the references that are created. For example, with that story about the cheetah, had I put my hand up and got the answer correctly, and all the class said was, oh, yeah, that's good, it may not have had the profound impact it did, as opposed to them celebrating my success. So just to relate that back to the Empower You weekends we run all around the country, for young people, we create an environment that constantly creates new references with an audience that supports everybody else, which is so, so important in nurturing new and empowering beliefs so that ultimately people can live lives with confidence, certainty and passion.